Today we are talking about something perhaps almost as important as balance tuning and class changes, which is the changes to how and what and where do we get our gear. So Blizzard has some significant changes to the gear upgrade system in 10.2, both in how many crests are we going to be earning, how many of them we will have to spend to upgrade the gear. So let's go over what Blizzard is planning to change, starting of course from the biggest of the changes, which is the nerf. The nerf is that the crest cap is now limited at roughly 6 upgrades per week compared to the 10 upgrades of before. This is something you might have forgotten because the crest weekly cap is something that was relevant for the first 3 weeks of the season 4 months ago. After that, nobody cared about the cap because the cap became so high and you already had your gear fully upgraded at that point, so the cap became something that nobody cared about. But at the start of the season is very important. At the start of the season you are trying to squeeze in as many item level upgrades as you can, so the cap is very relevant. And this cap is being nerfed by quite a bit, from 10 to 6. Previously, at the beginning of this season, we could upgrade 5 items, from 431 to 441, 5 per week. This is the good old spreadsheet of the release of the season, telling you, explaining to you how you could get to 444, 443 item level in just 3 resets. 3 resets of the season. That's how fast gearing was at the release of this patch. We knew, let's not lie to ourselves, we knew Blizzard wanted to slow this down. And that's how they are doing this. It's not just this though, there is another thing that is slowing down this whole process. In case you forgot, if we bring our big guide to Season 2 here and we look at the loot, you can see that the upgrades all the way back in the day stopped at 441. So technically, we could only upgrade that many items because we only needed 1 aspect crest per upgrade item. However, halfway through the season, Blizzard put the items all the way up here, meaning we needed a 2nd aspect crest and then a 3rd aspect crest. So if this was the system at the release of the season, we would have needed 3 aspects per item, not just 1, which means we would have already been nerfed down to 3 upgradable items per week instead of 5. Then we have a further change because the upgrade tracks have been increased. Now the hero track has 6 levels instead of 5. So the hero is this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now there is an extra one. On top of that, the myth track now has 4 levels instead of 3. From 437 to 441 is the first level. In 10.1.5 we have gotten the 2nd level at 444, the 3rd level of 447, and in Season 3 we will get the 4th level at 450. Of course the item levels will increase, but we are using Season 2's item levels for example. So this means that in Season 3 to fully upgrade an item you will need 1, 2, 3, 4 aspect crests. And the acquisition of aspect crests has been nerfed. You can no longer get 10 upgrade crests per week. If it's down to 6 and you need 4 to fully upgrade an item, that's 1.5 fully upgraded items per week. And that's not to count the crafted item that will require 4 aspect crests. So the speed with which we can upgrade our items goes from 5 per week to 1.5. So it's basically less than a third compared to the release of this season. Of course, let's not be dishonest, right? Those 5 upgrades stopped at 441, whereas these new upgrades would go all the way up to 450. So in terms of power, it's closer to 3 upgrades per week instead of 5 because the item level is higher. So the item is stronger. It gives you more stats, right? So it's not as bad, but still, it's slowed down. Basically, instead of taking 3 weeks to get full gear, it's going to take you 10 weeks. It's going to take you 2.5 months instead of 3 weeks, 20 days. That is how much it has been slowed down. However, there is a massive change, a catch-up mechanism that could also be very, very good for the health of the game, especially if you remember this video right here, talking about how the game will stay an empty, barren wasteland in the open world, and the player retention will be low because players will get bored in the open world. There will not be much to do, they don't see character power rewards in the open world, so they get bored and quit. This change, even though it has gone under the radar, is very important towards possibly making this much more valuable. This is the change. Crests can now be traded up for higher item level crests once reaching the lower level crests item level. So you already know, maybe you don't, but in that case you know it now, you can already downgrade the crests, right? You can change an aspect crest down into a worm crest, down into a drake crest, but you can't do the opposite. With this change, it means that once you reach the item level breakpoint, basically the change in color, once you reach 411, which is the max whelpling, you can upgrade them into drakes. Once you reach 424, which is the max drake, you can upgrade them into worms. And once you reach 437, which is worm, you can upgrade them into aspect crests. That's the item level you need to reach before you can start upgrading them. The keyword here that Blizzard says is when every gear slot has reached the item level. So not your average item level. So it's not enough to get a couple of 450s from the Great Vault and still have some 415s, but your average item level is 437. You still can't upgrade worms into aspects because you have a couple of 415s. They need to also be 437 before you can start upgrading them. However, once all of your item level pieces are at that maximum item level, you can start upgrading the crests. Why do I say this is very good for the open world? Because this means that now, even if you are a Mythic Plus player or a raider who gets a bunch of loot early on, completely renders obsolete all of this by like week 2. You know, by week 2, the guy is doing 20 plus Mythic Plus keys, he's doing Mythic bosses, he's farming Heroic Raid, right? He's getting this kind of loot. So all of this is just gone. It's irrelevant, it's useless. What this means is that now this player can farm world quests to get whelpling crests, can do lower Mythic Plus keys, can do events, weekly events to get Drake crests. Why? Because then all of the whelpling crests can be traded into Drake, and then all of the Drake crests can be traded into worm crests, and then all of the worm crests can be traded into aspect crests. So those are ways for a player to do lower level content, previously, currently useless lower level content for many players who are looking for player power in the open world. They see nothing, they get bored, and they go play something else, and then complain that besides Mythic Plus and raiding there is nothing to do. For that kind of player, he now has an incentive in doing lower item level, outdoor-ish content, because now these crests can still be used to be upgraded into something he can actually use. That is what is going to be very helpful for many players, giving you ways to speed up this significantly slowed down upgrade system compared to now. Because even though this one is, 3 times as slow as this season, you have the catch-up mechanism. The catch-up mechanism of whenever you reach the breakpoint item levels, whenever you reach these last levels, all of the previous crests will suddenly become upgradable. And now you can suddenly have a flood of upgradable gear. Imagine, for example, a Mythic Plus Mythic Raider who is spamming those keys, getting a whole bunch of worm crests, but are all useless because he has already upgraded all of his gear, so he doesn't need them anymore. And then, after going at the snail pace of 1.5 upgrade per week for a month, he finally reaches 437 item level. Now, all of those worm quests he hasn't used before can all be turned into aspect, and now these 1.5 upgrades per week turn into 10 upgrades per week all at once, because he is catching up on all the upgrades he lost compared to this season, because he is now able to upgrade the crests. So this could be a very, very good system. First of all, to give you something to look towards, to give you a big cash, a big chest reward the closer you get to your item level breakpoint, the closer you get to the point where you can start cashing in on all your weaker crests. That's a good chase item, a good chase reward. First of all, it can be good because it pushes players to stay in the open world, doing lower crest level content so that they can then upgrade them. That's also good. So all in all, it's just a win. It's just a win for all types of content. Of course, all of this could be ruined if this upgrade level is going to be gated by the weekly cap. This could be a problem because then all of this is made useless, right? What would be the reason for a Mythic Plus player to go and farm world quests and open world events if he can just spam Mythic Plus for aspects, already reach the 6 weekly cap, so he can't do anything with these anyways because he's doing Mythic Plus anyways, right? Maybe the best you can use this for is as a fall mechanism, right? As a parachute. This week I am bored, the affixes are terrible, I don't want to do Mythic Plus, I am going to cap my weekly aspect crests by just turning in a bunch of Whelpling crests, right? I'm just gonna upgrade them to Drake and then to Worm and then to Aspect, and I don't need to do my weekly Mythic Plus keys to cap my aspect crests. That's the only way it could be useful. But it would be much, much better if this upgrade system won't suffer from this cap. Because if it doesn't, it will give players a reason to stay in the open world and to do lower level content for now meaningful character power rewards. Something that right now becomes very irrelevant for many players because the item level is simply too low. With this upgrade system, they will actually be able to make use of them, continue to make use of them much deeper into the season. So that's a very, very positive change if it works, as I said, and it's not capped by this weekly limit of your crest acquisition. So that is potentially a very good change when it comes to the open world. We can then finish talking about good changes with another thing, with the revival catalyst available during week 1 of Dragonflight. This was one of the things I pointed out in terms of giving us quality of life. I was saying, sure, give us less loot, give us less ways to upgrade our gear, but make our gear stronger. Make our gear better and more deterministic. A good way to do that would be giving us the catalyst early, because that way we can much more quickly get our tier set running. Even players who don't raid, even players who do raid and were unlucky in the Great Vault or unlucky with the loot distribution and they don't have the tier set, now with the catalyst it's much more doable. Now there is much more value in off pieces from the raid. Now, all of those off pieces are a potential tier piece, for example, right? There's gonna be a much easier time for your entire raid to have 4 pieces very early compared to now. So that is also a very good change as far as itemization goes in this coming patch. However, as pointed out, by far the biggest of the possible changes will be the upgrading of crests, potentially making more open world content features more enticing, more wanted by much more of the player base, because they can potentially now give you good gear. Good gear in the sense of looting this, upgrading this to this, to this, to this, and then making it useful. So that could be a potential very good addition to the game. We will see. We will see in the next few days, especially on the PTR, how Blizzard is implementing this, planning to implement this, if it's how I hope, with no cap limit of the amount of upgrades you can have per week, or if it's how I fear, where the upgrading is still capped by this limit. Hoping it's not like that. So besides this, it's still a promising set of changes when it comes to itemization and gearing up in this upcoming patch, at least for the ones like me who wanted us to be a little bit more slowed down in just how fast we can get our gear in the next season. So leaving you with this take, it's now time to say our goodbyes for today. We are thanking, of course, as usual, all of our dear Patreon supporters for the contribution and help to the growth of the channel, which can still be given for free. You can like and comment down below, as well as subscribe to the channel itself. Now, with these things out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, okay, at the very least, this heat wave is only supposed to last until the 14th of September, and then it's gonna be gone for real. But like, for real though, okay? No more sun, no more sweat, come on, it's September already.